Hi everyone, it's Nicole for Simon Says Stamp with some patterned paper tag background collages featuring the December 2022 Simon Says Stamp card kit. I don't know about you, but sometimes the pattern paper in the kit is just so pretty that I can't cover it up and I want to make it a focal point. In this instance, the Prima Marketing Candy Cane Lane pattern paper from the kit has so many cute vintage beautiful Christmas images that just remind me of childhood, and I wanted to make them the focal point of the design. I love tag collage backgrounds. So I took some of the nested tags from Simon Says Stamp. We're going to start with the smallest tag in that set, and I am going to take about 3 sheets of the Candy Cane Lane pattern paper, and I'm going to die cut some of my favorite little images using this tag. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create 2 different cards. One card is going to feature a 6 tag collage and the other one will feature a 3 tag collage because we'll be using a little bit bigger tag. Both of these cards will be A2 sized. I'm using a little low tack tape from Simon Says Stamp, which is perfect because it's not going to ruin the pattern paper, but it will hold the die in place while I run it through the machine. I'm able to use that die repeatedly, the low tack tape repeatedly several times before having to replace it. These images are so cute and fun, and I had a blast trying to figure out the best way to die cut all of these to make the most of the pattern paper. Now, I chose to leave my pattern paper fully as a 6x6 sheet. That way I can reuse any of the extra little pieces when I'm done because there is going to be quite a bit of leftover. I'm going to continue die cutting until I get all of the icons I want. And I highly recommend taping down your die if you're going to do something similar, whether you're going to do maybe a square die, a regular rectangle die, a circle die, just so that you get exactly the area you want die cut without any shifting. One of my favorite things to do, and you can see here that I am taping this tag die upside down so that the hole will be at the bottom of this tag. I think it adds visual interest when you're creating a tag collage to have one of your tags upside down. So I purposely die cut the ho 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 with the little hole down at the bottom. Off camera, I will be taking some rose cardstock from my stash from Simon Says Stamp and die cutting the regular hole reinforcer from this, I think 9 times, 6 for the small tags and 3 for the next size up tag. You'll notice that with my cards today, the majority of these 2 designs comes from the Simon Says Stamp December card kit. I really try to show ideas where you can use the majority of the card kit with maybe a few tools that you have on hand. I, of course, had to use this darling Santa. You can see this is the next tag size up, and he's going to kind of be the focal point. We're going to use him, the Christmas tree from this, and then we will also be using the December 25th or the 25 from my other sheet. And I'm going to have it kind of angled a different direction, which is totally fine. This is more of a collage style card, and kind of be you can be very creative, I guess I want to say, with this style or this design. Once I have all of my tags die cut for my 2 cards, I do want to create some backgrounds. And included in the kit is the Fur 3D Fur Branches, I think it's called, embossing folder. I love the Simon Says Stamp 3D embossing folders. They create absolutely incredible embossed backgrounds. I want my background to be a little more interesting, and so that is why I'm going to emboss it. I find that you get a better result if you lightly mist your cardstock with a mini mister. It gives a really nice fine mist. So this one I didn't. See how some of the areas aren't as embossed, I guess, as others. So for the next one, I am going to take my mini mister. I'm going to spritz that. I did it kind of off so I didn't make everything wet on my table. I'm going to place my embossing or my paper in my embossing folder, run it through, and I will show you a comparison of what it looks like when you use the mini mister and when you don't. I really recommend that you do lightly mist your cardstock because the results are absolutely amazing. Once I have my 2 panels and they've dried, I'm going to take some Cranberry Tart mica stain and I'm going to lightly spritz these backgrounds with the mica stain to give some fun splatter. When I'm using pre-made type product like the pattern paper today, which is the focal point of the design, I try to find creative ways to still add a creative flair or that creative touch to a card. So the mica stain just creates a beautiful look, and with the colors of the pattern paper, I felt like Cranberry Tart was the perfect addition. Now you're going to notice that the edges of my tags are lightly distressed. This is the Lumberjack Plaid mini ink cube that comes in the kit. My favorite direct to paper technique is to take that ink cube and just rub it lightly against the edges, distressing them slightly. You don't have to always do brown or black type of ink with this technique, but it weathers the edges, it gives them a more distressed look, and I love that little extra flair that the red ink pad provides to the edges. I'm doing everything on my Tim Holtz glass mat so that I can easily clean this up with a little rubbing alcohol or water when I am finished. And you'll notice I'm coming in from the side. So yes, I'm getting quite a bit of ink on my table. You can always spritz a little water on your table, take some cardstock and press it in there and use up that ink before you clean it up, and you can have a completely fun background to die cut or use for another project. I didn't here today, but you really could do that super easily. Once I have the edges all distressed, it's time to start putting it all together. Now, as much as I love the white background with the embossing and the splatter, there are so many pretty pattern papers in the kit. I want to showcase another little bit of that. And so I'm going to use a stripe from the kit I've actually used on another card that I shared earlier this month on my blog, and I have leftover of it. And I thought, well, this is the perfect time to showcase it. So I'm going to cut off 1/4 inch on both long sides for the landscape style card. And I'm going to just cut some strips. It doesn't matter how much, just a little bit more. These are probably a little bit more than a 1/2 inch. Whatever it is, I want to lay those down on the card first, and then we'll put the embossed panel on top, and I'll show you that. I'm going to take some of the red line tape from Simon Says Stamp. It is super sticky. It is going to hold on to whatever you place on here. So I'm going to put this at the top and the bottom. I always like to use something sharp like a pokey tool of some sort. We're going to peel off that red line tape, and we're just going to lay the stripe pattern paper. And remember, this is scraps left over from another project. And I'm going to place it at the top and the bottom. It doesn't matter that they're not even. No one is going to know but you and me. We're then going to take the red line tape and place it on the back of our embossed panel. Then we're going to go ahead and adhere this to the center. That little touch of stripe at the top and the bottom is going to add so much interest to this card. It adds a nice little touch of color and really ties in beautifully with the pattern paper from the kit. And here I am just going to trim up my background a little bit and go ahead and pop this down in place. I'm going to trim off the excess pattern paper, and then I can adhere my tags right to my card front. Now, the landscape style card is going to be the 3 tags. I found that about 3 of this size tag is going to fit on here perfectly. I also used the rose gold metallic cardstock from Simon Says Stamp because I felt like that pink blush color really fit the vibe of these tags and of the card. Once I have that, and I'm going to go ahead and just do all of my tags all at once. All 9 tags are going to have a little hole reinforcer. It is something a little extra, but I do think the hole reinforcer adds so much to the finished tag, especially if you're doing something with pre-mades like this pre-made pattern paper. The distressed edges, the hole reinforcer out of the metallic cardstock, all of these things elevate your design so much. Once I have those all in place, I'm going to take the big tags and some of my favorite foam tape from Simon Says Stamp, and we're going to put foam tape on the back of the tags. I'm going to do this for both cards. I love popping up elements because it really lifts it off the background, and again, anything you can do to add that visual interest. So 2 of my tags, and I'm going to do the 2 outer tags first so that I can evenly space them. I am going to go ahead and adhere them with foam tape, but that middle tag is upside down. Again, visual interest. Because this card only features 3 tags, I am going to go ahead and use some Lawn Trimmings twine. Any kind of baker's twine, string, or fine ribbon I think would work here. And I'm going to thread it through my tags and tie it into a little knot. This is Lawn Fawn Lawn Trimmings natural twine, but I think all kinds of different, I think red and white baker's twine would be really cute here. Now I almost cut this one too short. I probably should have left it a little longer until I got it knotted, but I didn't. And I do eventually manage to get this knotted, but I've learned from my mistake and I'll definitely leave it longer for the future tags. You could also mix and match and use different ribbons or twines for each tag if you wanted to. I think that would be really cute as well. I kept mine consistent, but I've done it both ways and I love it both ways. Now this tag, I am going to tie some twine through each one, but for the small tags, I felt like that was just a little too much for that card. And you'll see that I'm not going to do it on every single tag for that one. I'm making sure that the little ends and the little loop are really small so that it stays within the tag area or card area, and isn't super long like I would normally leave if I was going to use these as gift tags. And that is another idea. You could very easily and quickly make gift tags just like this without adding them to card bases. So if you're looking for some quick and easy ways to make some very cute gift tags, that is an excellent way to do that. Same as the landscape style card, but this time we are going to do a portrait card. I'm going to place the red line tape at the top and the bottom, and we're going to use the leftover scraps of that stripe paper so that this card really matches and has the stripes at the top and the bottom. I've trimmed down 1/4 inch on the short side this time of our embossed background, and we're going to adhere that right to our card. Just like before, we're going to line up our tags on the embossed area of the card, and I'm going to work in rows, like I'm going to do the outer, the left side, the right side, and then I can kind of figure out the middle. And just like before, there's one tag that is upside down for visual interest. I'm going to put foam adhesive on the back of the tags and secure all of them to the background. I love how cute this is. Now I know a lot of the embossing gets covered up, but I do like the little added texture in the background with the splatter. I think it really just adds to that collage-y vintage feel that I'm going for. But lining everything up definitely gives it kind of a clean distress type look, which is probably more my vibe. So now that I have the 2 outer edges, I can go ahead and do the 2 middle tags. This is just an easy way to get them lined up. But I do notice that that tag on the right wasn't quite even, so I did kind of lift it up and move it very carefully. Now we're ready for finishing details and adding sentiments. I absolutely love the stamp set that comes in the kit this month. It's called Joy to You and Me, and the greetings are vintagey. They're beautiful. I love this kit. So I am going to take 2 of the sentiments, Sending Joy and Love and Merry Christmas, and using the Lumberjack Plaid ink in the kit, I'm going to stamp them on a scrap of white cardstock and use my favorite Simon Says Stamp sentiment labels dies to die cut these into strips that I can add to one of the cards. When I am die cutting sentiment strips, I always line up one end with one end of the sentiment, run it through my die cutting machine, and then flip it around, line up the other end, and then just barely run it through to die cut the other side. This way I get a perfectly die cut sentiment strip. If you don't have any sentiment labels dies, you can always use a paper trimmer to trim up your sentiments. For the other sentiment, for my second card, the portrait card, I'm actually going to grab some vellum and I am going to stamp the Christmas greetings that looks like a vintage label on a scrap of vellum using Simon Says Stamp clear embossing ink, and I'm going to use the Lumberjack Plaid Distress Glaze to emboss. I really wanted everything to match, and I love how this looks in the red embossing. So let's stamp that with our clear ink. I'm going to use a powder tool first to help keep the embossing powder only on the stamped part of the image or greeting. We'll sprinkle on the embossing powder and then I will heat set it. I love how these look like vintage labels. So pretty. And I'm a huge fan of embossing on vellum. It always gives an amazing, elegant look. I'm going to go ahead and trim this down. So I did die cut it with a sentiment label die, but then I decided that I think I just want it to be more of a label. So I'm going to take my scissors and cut the 2 short ends, and then I'm just going to cut at an angle. If you have a notch type like Crop-A-Dile or something, you could probably notch those corners, but I don't think it's totally necessary. And because it's vellum, you can still see through it. So I'm just going to take my scissors now, which I could have just cut this into a strip, but I thought I'd leave it long, but I decided not to. Now to hide my adhesive, I'm going to put liquid glue around the border, and then I'm going to put something heavy on top, like an acrylic block, to hold that down while the glue dries. And look how cute that looks layered over the tags. I love this. While that's drying, I'm going to glue one of the Tim Holtz candy canes in place on the middle tag on my landscape style card. Then I'm going to put foam adhesive on the back of one of my sentiment strips, but leave a little space where it goes over the candy cane. We're going to put 2 little sentiment strips on this design, and that is really going to finish up this card. I do add a little heart embellishment at the very end, one for each card. I always love adding a little heart touch somewhere. Once I have these hearts added to both of my cards, I decided to add some twine to some of the tags on the portrait style card. I know I mentioned earlier I don't want to add the twine to all of the tags. I felt like that was a little too much. Plus our greeting is covering up one of those areas, although there isn't the hole there since that is the tag that's upside down. But still, I just felt like it was a little too much twine or ribbon on a card. So I'm only going to add that to about 3 of the tags, but that adds the perfect finishing touch, and that will finish up both of these cards featuring the Simon Says Stamp December 2022 card kit. I hope that this video has given you some ideas on how to incorporate pattern paper into your next card making project, and maybe even taking parts and pieces of your favorite pattern papers and making tags out of them. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Please be sure to visit the Simon Says Stamp blog for more information, and all of the supplies are listed below for your convenience.
Hi there. there, I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at SimonsSaysStamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.